The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Welcome to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between viewer and entrepreneur by sharing their successes, trials and tribulations, and more. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and today we are joined by owner and operator of Viva Volleyball, Dwayne Lewis. Welcome to the show, Dwayne.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, what is Viva Volleyball?
Yeah, so Viva Volleyball is an adult volleyball provider. We strive to keep the sport of volleyball growing by providing a variety of leagues, tournaments, and drop-ins open to competitive and non-competitive players.
That sounds amazing. How did you get into starting a volleyball league?
Yeah, so almost a decade ago, a friend of mine introduced me, or invited me rather, to a drop-in that was happening at the church we were attending. And after the first night, I fell in love with the sport, never looked back on any other sport that I played in the past. And attending that drop-in and the league that they offered for the next 1 to 2 years, I just really grew to love the sport, grew to love the community, and then later got a job as a director of youth and sports and was able to actually start my own drop-in.
Amazing. Now, did you go to school for sports management or anything sport related, or how did you get involved?
Yeah, so I went to school for fitness and health promotion and never would have guessed or even thought of starting a volleyball business. Again, I was exposed to it once I graduated, and between the time I graduated to starting Viva Volleyball, I still had an extensive background working with people in sports, whether it be kids or adults. But then I came to see that kids sports is very important, but that adult sports seems to be overlooked or dismissed. And so having the opportunity to get involved with that, it's been great. And a lot of the experience I had actually was transferable to me starting this business and getting it to where it is right now.
That sounds incredible. It sounds like you took a big risk.
I did, and it's been a very rewarding one.
And before we get into the nitty-gritty of how you started your business and built it, I imagine volleyball as a team sport. How do you foster inclusivity?
Yeah, so one thing that we are sure to advertise or to let people know ahead of time is that when you sign up, we will do our best to get you matched with like-level players, because we want to make sure we keep things exceptionally leveled. And so when you send me a text or when you email, we're able to get you in and just ensuring that people have a good time. We are very focused on providing a good playing experience. And so we can take small groups, we can take full teams, we can take individuals, whether it be for tournaments, drop-ins, or leagues. There's many ways to get into the game.
And I think there are a lot of individuals that would maybe join as individuals or perhaps a small group that wouldn't necessarily know where their skill level lies. And with this being a competitive intermediate league, how do you figure out where they fit?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have difficulty figuring out where they fit. So what we've done to kind of combat that is we have a level descriptions page. And so whether you want to see whether you are more of a beginner player or recreational, or if you can't determine whether you're advanced or competitive, this does help, especially because what we offer, it's not open to everyone, all levels of play. Due to the venues that we use and the amount of teams we can accommodate, we have certain leagues and tournaments that are open to, let's say, 1 or 2 levels. And so to see if you best fit, this descriptions page really helps you with that.
And how did you write the description page? Did you follow a template from, let's say, Volleyball Canada, or did you kind of make it up on your own based on your personal experiences?
Yeah, it was mainly based on personal experiences and seeing what other league providers and tournament providers also had, what they used to classify this demographic or this group as competitive, or just what the difference between beginner and recreational would look like.
Amazing. Now talk to us about the scale of your business. You originally started as an outreach with the church, as a drop-in, and then you kind of scaled to a league. When you did that, did you have a plan in place, or how have you snowballed into this massive league now?
Yeah, so it kind of just happened organically. There was no plans for Viva to grow to where it was. Again, it was just something we started to get people in the community involved, to get them to play the sports and to just meet other people that shared in their love for volleyball. And it got to the point where, because I started the drop-ins as first come, first serve, it did take a bit of time for it to grow, but eventually it got to the point where I was denying people at the door. People would come early and park in the parking lot at about 30 minutes before the start, and I would have to count the first 21 people that arrived in order to get into the gym. And so once I saw that, hey, there's clearly a need for more intermediate competitive volleyball, not even necessarily leagues, but just pickup options that are non-commitment, non-competitive, but still allow you to enjoy the game. And so in doing that, it blossomed into more drop-in options, into tournaments, and then eventually something where you can commit to continuously, which is the leagues that we provide.
Wow. So you scaled quickly, you had many options. So when you originally started the drop-ins, how did you market that?
Yeah, so marketing has seemed to evolve year to year. And when we first started out, what worked well for us was Kijiji and an outdoor sign. So inexpensive, but still had a great return. Nowadays, I find that Kijiji isn't something that works as effectively, but it really just was able to communicate exactly what we're offering, what it will do for the players, and what it will just ensure their experience will be like.
So you started with Kijiji and some billboards, and what are you doing now to market
Yeah,
Viva?
so maybe 2 to 3 years in, we kind of transitioned to doing more Instagram and Facebook ads, and they were effective, but not as effective as we wanted it to be. But now, over the last 2 years, what's really been helping is posting photos of teams winning, highlight videos as well of the gameplay or finals of a certain event, and them being able to share these on their stories or on their page. It reaches a lot of people. And again, this is no cost, but it just shows that people are excited about their experience with playing and kind of shows off their talent, especially in the videos. And it just reaches so many people because those platforms seem to really bring a lot of traffic. And then of course, having the swag that people can wear or win. I remember even going to the gas station and someone's like, "Oh, Viva Volleyball, I like the logo." And so something as simple as that has really, really helped to gain a lot of traction and has been very effective with our marketing wise. And so, yeah.
And the Viva t-shirts, sweaters, and swag, they seem to be a commodity within the league. And they seem to be kind of a symbol of status. If you have a Viva shirt, you've been successful in some form within the leagues, and then that's external advertising for you. Talk to us about the creation of the shirts. How do you go about selecting them? Do you work with a vendor? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so at the start, I was getting them printed through another company, and the low light was that the prices did get quite expensive, so I decided, hey, I'll try this out myself. And so doing the printing through silkscreen, although it does take a lot of time, there's a lot of reward in getting that perfect print and knowing that that's going to be on the back of someone that has won a league or event. And it's been great. We get a lot of people that really want to compete and try to win something that just has Viva, that just shows that they've played their best to represent the business. And there is some requests for me to print them and sell them, because the only way technically to get any kind of Viva swag is by winning. And so I think that's something that we're going to consider in the years or months to come, is to actually just put them for sale, and they can say, yeah, I won this somehow, but actually they just bought it. And so, yeah.
So you're telling me through the evolution of your leagues, people are now asking you to purchase your merchandise to sport it. That truly shows growth within your business. So are you going to stick to t-shirts and sweaters, or do you think you're going to try some other avenues as well?
Yeah, so we recently introduced or brought about shaker bottles. And so because a lot of the people that play within our leagues are very fit and active, and we know that, hey, a shaker bottle may be something that they want to add to the stuff that they have. And so and we're also looking at doing even more sweaters and crew necks, and not necessarily just tops, and even some embroidered hats maybe. But again, we're still looking at what would work well and what people actually want, not necessarily just giving them what we have, but hey, what is it that you want to represent or wear that has a Viva logo printed on it?
And I think the key word there is printed on it. So right now you are doing all the printing yourself manually.
Yes.
Is there a plan for you in the future to outsource that to then make these other promo products? Or
yeah, that is the plan, especially with the growth that we're having. I find that it is very time consuming, and it's been great being able to do it from home. but I think passing it on or hiring someone to, or outsourcing it would really help free up time so that we can concentrate on other things, and just, again, adding to the growth of the business. And yeah.
Amazing. So talk to us a little bit about social media. With a strong organic social media presence, how do you separate Dwayne the business owner from Dwayne the owner, or Dwayne the person?
Yeah, that's, I usually don't put myself on any of our social media platforms. And Viva, although it does really reflect my character, I kind of have to thank the players for just making it what it is. And all of our leagues and events would not be successful if not for the participation. And thankfully, we have a wonderful community of people. And I keep myself not separate intentionally, but I just want people to see that, hey, although I am a one-man show, this thing can exist without me. And I just want people to know that, hey, Viva the brand doesn't necessarily just represent one person, but it's just the community altogether.
And on the note of separation, we'll be right back.
Closed captioning is brought to you in part by Raven Reads. Unbox Indigenous voices. Subscribe today at ravenreads.org.
Hey, I'm Chef Corey Dern, host of a show on Rogers TV Georgina called Cooking with Corey. Join me bi-weekly for brand new episodes where I teach you not only what to cook, but how to cook. On this show, we have cooked almost everything. Things like Japanese udon noodles with tofu, chicken on the rocks, zucchini fritters, and even grilled cheese. There's only one thing missing, and that's smell-o-vision. That's Cooking with Corey, right here on Rogers TV Georgina.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hi, I'm Angel Morgan, host of Raising Energy on Rogers TV. Join us each week as we are back in the studio doing live psychic readings. Check out rogerstv.com for airtimes.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Modern Business with Taylor Bursey. If you're just tuning in, I am joined by Dwayne Lewis of Viva Volleyball. Now, Dwayne, you were telling us that you started with a small drop-in that then snowballed into a full volleyball league for competitive and intermediate adults. Now, talk to us about that transition from the small paid league to a larger, the small paid drop-in to a larger scale league. What went into that? Did you have insurance costs, other liability stuff that you had to worry about?
Yeah, so when we introduced the leagues, it was great. We were able to accommodate more players, bring in more teams, and really just add a lot of growth and awareness to what we're doing. Now, with the drop-ins, the costs mainly just went back to the church that we were using, the venue that we're using. And now, with expanding and going into different venues, having to pay rental costs, having to get much more equipment, insurance, things like you've mentioned as well. And recently we kind of made a big stretch, and one of the beach or outdoor venues that we use only had 2 courts, and so it's been great to be there, and being able to take in about 5 teams per night. We thought, hey, we want to add more value to the leagues and enhance the playing experience, and to achieve that, we installed 2 additional courts at one of the venues that we use in Whitby. And in doing so, it was a big cost, but it had a great return. And again, getting a lot of feedback from the players that this was a great move. But such things as that has really added up to the cost and stuff. And then, of course, now just having people to be in a position to help us supervise certain leagues. And yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about implementing these beach courts. You're working with a facility that you were previously renting from. So did the facility contribute to the cost of the beach court, or did that come straight out of your pocket for the building?
Yeah, so they thankfully were open to us adding more courts, but this had to come to our expense. And it was an exciting project because I have a little bit of background doing stuff of that nature, and so being able to have the time to put in the posts, to get the sand delivered, to leveling everything out, to laying down the tarp before the sand goes on, and then of course just installing the rings and getting the nets put up. And again, just very thankful that the venue that we use was allowing us to do so. And even with the cost being on us, it's actually made it so that more of the members that attend that church can still use the courts, but it gives us exclusivity to using them on the days that we want.
And was that a scary investment for you?
It was not as much, only because I saw that there was a need for it. And I knew that this would have really helped with our leagues, and because of the fact that season after season, especially for the summer, that we had teams on a wait list. And so clearly the interest is there, and I knew that there wouldn't be difficulty in getting those courts filled up. And so we actually had that same, I wouldn't say problem, but we had that this summer where teams signed up very quick, even with the additional 2 courts, and if only I could have added maybe 4 instead of the 2, definitely would have been worth it.
Always going bigger and better, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about how you structure your payments for the leagues. Do you take all the costs into effect and then divide equally? How are you doing that now?
Yeah, so it's with the money that's accumulated, again, it's just going towards expenses and just really adding to the league overall. And for me, again, this is how I sustain my family. We have two little girls at home with another one on the way, and it's grown to the point where, hey, you know what, this just helps us out, and it's just been great through it all. Yeah.
And I would say you're very fair with your costing. Now talk to us a little bit about how you get the financing for that. Do you have a payment software that you use? Are you working with an external vendor, or are you doing it all in-house?
Yeah, it's quite old school. We deal mainly with just cash and e-transfers. And since we started like that, a lot of our players are returning, and so they are familiar with the way, or the ways in which we accept payment. And it is convenient, especially when it comes to refund processes. That's been one of the issues in the pandemic, is not knowing whether we could finish a season, for example, just with the restrictions that come into play. So there's actually been 2 instances where we started the league and then we had to cancel, but then instead of going through vendors or through third parties and issuing credit refunds and stuff, I know that other businesses had difficulty with that, but as simple as sending back a prorated amount via e-transfer or cash if I see them has been very simple. And it is, I think, having credit card payment is going to be a convenience to our players, but for now we're going to continue with just doing cash and e-transfers, and like some people say, cash is king, but yeah, it's worked very well for us. So,
and figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
Okay, now talk to us a little bit about the non-beach courts, your indoor courts. How do you go about sourcing venues? Do you make deals with each venue individually? Do you work with a bigger conglomerate to find venues? How does that all happen?
Yeah, so thankfully we use more private establishments. Being a commercial business, sometimes we're put last in line to get venues. That's been a struggle early on, where non-for-profit youth organizations or just general youth organizations, they get first dibs on, for example, publicly funded schools or venues. And with with the private establishments we use, we do have good relationships with them, and thankfully they're welcoming us back season to season because they know that, hey, we're able to fill the gym, we're able to get our leagues going and have very, very minimal changes. And yeah, so it's getting more venues is always on the agenda, not necessarily just to fill the gym up, but again, Durham, it has a lot of double gyms, not a lot of triple and quad gyms, which again would simplify everything. Instead of having 2 gyms at one venue and having some players play there and then some players playing in a different gym, it would just be incredible to have them all at the same place. Makes it much easier to run as well. But yeah, no, the private establishments we use, especially during the pandemic, has been very powerful, especially because the publicly funded schools, and for totally acceptable reasons, did not want to open it to the public for community use. But yeah, so our focus is to continue to build upon that relationship so that we know season to season we have a guaranteed spot to host our leagues, and that players can have peace of mind in knowing that things won't change.
Consistency is key. Now, you spoke about having one gym in one place, another gym in another place. Obviously, you can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
Have you hired outside help to run the leagues?
I have, yeah. And when I started, I was everywhere. I was at every drop-in, every tournament, every league, and I take a lot of delight in watching people play and also having the opportunity to engage with the players in the service I'm providing. Now, with the growth that we've been having, for example, on a Tuesday, if we have a venue in Bowmanville and a venue in Whitby, as much as I'd like to be both places at once, it's not possible. And so in the last few years, I've been able to meet a lot of fantastic people through the game and establish some fantastic friendships as well. And so I've been able to reach out to some of these friends who I trust. And the great thing about this business, it's not a hierarchy thing. There's no friction that can be created between me and, let's say, for example, someone that's doing exactly what I would do in a more overseeing or supervising position. And so it hasn't been as difficult as I thought. But again, I wish I could be everywhere at once and just to see and address things that are going on. But yeah, I trust those that are in the position that I am with supervising, and it's just given me a lot of peace of mind in knowing that the leagues are being run by people that not only are active in the community, but are very well known in the community as well, in the volleyball community.
So you hand selected these people who were participating in your leagues, or how did you find them?
Yeah, so some I reached out to, and some just expressed great intent with helping. And so that's always a great thing, is that people want Viva to succeed, and not necessarily because of the fact that I asked them, but just because they see the service that we provide is awesome, and seeing as they had a first-hand experience with it, I think they just want to be a part of that growth, a part of that journey, and I'm all for that. And my family's very thankful for it too. But that's made it so much easier to find the help in order to keep the leagues running successfully, and also to free up time for myself. And so, yeah.
Well, time for yourself is very important. And so when you hired these individuals, did you find it hard to become a manager of people that you know or even would call friends? Or how did you navigate that line?
Yeah, so again, it just had to do with the fact that the kind of job, the work that they're doing, it's very simple. It's not a lot of pressure. Again, it's not that we're competing or yeah, it's mainly just the fact that they're doing exactly what I would do, and supervising, answering any questions, making sure that ensuring the steadiness of games, reporting scores, and yeah, so it hasn't been that bad, or I shouldn't say that bad. It hasn't been difficult at all. And saying that, hey, a friend of mine, you're working under me, I never even think about it like that. I just think it's more them being like me in a supportive role. I still do all the behind the scenes stuff, so managing all the subsets of marketing, the web development and stuff. It's just the supervisor role. Anyone can technically do it, and even when I'm there, I feel like I'm just sitting down and watching sports. And but at the same time, knowing that, hey, I still have a responsibility. I am supervising a group of adults, and but sometimes it feels like it just runs itself. And a lot of people get the flow of things. They understand the format, and again, the people that do run the leagues, they have a taste of what it is as well, so they know exactly how things run.
And do you pay those people a salary for running the leagues, or are you doing some kind of contra deal with them where they get maybe a membership for the league?
Yeah, so sometimes it can be an energy exchange or just me compensating them. Not necessarily salaried, but it would just be hourly based on the amount of time that, or where they're at in terms of which location, how long they're there, including setup and teardown time. And because these guys are very involved, they play in tournaments, they play in some of the drop-in options as well. And so some of them don't even want to take the fee. They just want to volunteer. They opt to say that they don't want to be compensated, but I just feel a little out of place to not do that. And but just to show that, hey, what I take very seriously what you're doing for me, and it's great what you're doing. And so I just feel like, hey, this you need to be compensated for what you're doing, because this is just really adding to the furtherance of what we're doing.
And speaking of the furtherance, when you look back at where you started, did you ever imagine that Viva would become what it is today?
No, I did not. Again, it just had to do with, I started it as a community outreach and saw that there was a need for more, and it got to where it is now.
And looking back, if you could do one thing differently, what would it be?
Yeah, the one thing with the drop-in options that we started and some of the leagues is that we had them open only to intermediate plus. And it wasn't, not having an option for lower level players or recreational to beginner was, sometimes I felt bad that I couldn't provide them with an option that we had for. So I wish that I was able to secure a place where, hey, maybe you're not at the level there yet, and I know everybody starts somewhere, but to still have something or an option for them that they can go to still be involved with the sport, be part of the community, and if they're looking for more of a challenge, we have those intermediate options or more competitive options for them.
That sounds amazing. Now, do you have a trade tip for our audience today? A piece of advice that has stood with you, a piece of advice you'd like to give someone else, or just something that you just want to share with the world?
Yeah, it doesn't have to just be one thing.
No, it can be multiple things.
Yeah, no, there's many, but the three I will say is something that you actually mentioned earlier, which is to be consistent. Do whatever it takes to day in and day out to grow your business. The second thing I would say is to have a very attractive website. And having an attractive website, it's the face of the community, of your business. And the last thing I would say is it was just in my mind. The last thing I would say is
I think when we were speaking earlier, you were talking about how it was cliche, but if you have passion for what you do, you feel like you're not working, and your passion drives success, and vice versa. Once you have success, it continues to drive your passion. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and you know what? It just came back to me, and it is to over-deliver on service. And as we know, that is a differentiating factor between successful and non-successful businesses.
So you weren't talking about volleyball service?
Service in general.
Service in general.
Yeah.
Now, you're speaking of an attractive website. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find us at vivavolleyball.ca. We are on some social media platforms such as Instagram as well, so Viva Volleyball, and Facebook at Viva Volleyball as well.
Awesome. So people can just send you a message there if they're interested in getting involved?
Absolutely.
All right. Dwayne, thank you so much for joining us today. That's been an edition of Modern Business with me, Taylor Bursey. We'll be back next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Sports fans know Sundays are for football. That's why you need NFL Sunday tickets. With NFL Sunday